Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of The Rundown. My name is Sunny Galt. I'm a messenger with United Network News. UNN is the official news channel for CARE, which stands for the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. Myself and everyone at UNN, that is what we are focused on. We are focused on moving forward with the restoration plan of Earth, getting all the stuff that's happened to us over the last, thousands and thousands of years. We're done with that. The Dark Ages, we are out of that now. We are heading into the light. The light has won. God has won. And we are really looking forward to our new Earth that we'll be creating together. At UNN, we discuss the real news because you need to know what's happening on this planet so you can see where we're going with things. You can't be blindsided by this kind of stuff. And a lot is happening right now. And trust me, what mainstream media is telling you, what alternative media is telling you is completely wrong. It is all a narrative. We have a newscast where we tell the truth. It's released through our online distribution platform, which is our website at unitednetwork.tv. And our newscast comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And when we have our world situation report, which I'm going to play some clips for you just a little bit later in the podcast, then that's when I do one of these episodes, because that's the real exciting stuff that people really want to tune in and listen to. We got a lot of amazing stuff that we talk about on the news, but knowing where we're at in this battle between good and evil is really important. But if you want more information on how to access all of our content, not just our newscasts, but we produce other original series, we've got some great health and wellness videos. You can check us out at unitednetwork.tv. On this podcast, we basically do a review of some of the stories that we talk about on the news. It's obviously not the whole thing, okay? I'll give you a little bit of commentary when that's needed, or when I feel like giving it, honestly. We do cover local stories, but we do that through our field messengers, which are people just like you who grab their camera, run out the door, and report on what's happening in their community. We have stories about the new Earth and where we are going and how things are changing and how we as humanity fit into all of that. And not just fit, but really thrive. Like, this is the most exciting time to be alive on this planet. Some really cool things are happening, and we want to prepare you for that. We also talk about regional stories, and we do this from the perspective of the people. So a while back, we cut out pretty much all government stories, unless there was something in it that really impacted people, it was very obvious, right? Like, something happened and now people have to pay a price for it or whatever. If it impacts the people, we talk about it. Otherwise, we are done talking about the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, insert, cabal-owned and operated organization here. And that includes all world governments. So we don't talk about them anymore. We talk about it a little bit in the World Situation Report, and that's the last thing. That's the sound bites that I'm going to play at the end, because they do play a role in everything as it's unfolding right now in this war. World governments are a part of that. They are crumbling, if you haven't noticed. So it's important that you guys know what's going on. And you may wonder, how do you, Sunny, and anyone else that works at UNN, how do you know this information? And that's because we have access to the highest security clearance on the planet, higher than governments. So high that most people don't even know it goes that high, okay? And the information we give you may be surprising. If you tuned into this podcast because you were looking for Megyn Kelly or Tucker Carlson, you might be really surprised because that is not who we are. And again, they are part of the mainstream. I don't care, rah-rah-ree, Tucker Carlson's on our side. Yeah, just like Elon Musk is on our side. Not happening, people. Not happening. But the information we talk about may be surprising, but I encourage you guys to stick with us because we are telling the truth. I promise you. And if you do your own research and you stop believing people just because they're sitting in front of a microphone, even myself, don't just believe me because I say something. Do your research, think critically, and ask questions. All right. Any announcements? Well, it's Friday the 13th. So I guess happy Friday the 13th, guys. Let's take a negative and make it a positive. Here's the rundown for Friday, October 13th, 2023. So we always kick off our newscasts with our awesome field messenger reports. Again, these are people that, watch UNN. I guess you don't have to watch UNN, but that's usually how you find out about our field messengers. And they start doing reports on what's happening in their community. We think that is a lot stronger than some corporate person or network person from whatever national television company coming in and, trying to tell your story. There's always an agenda there. But what we've found is that the people don't have an agenda. The people usually want peace. They want good things to happen in their community, and they want the truth. So we're relying on you guys to report on what's happening in your neighborhood. Sometimes the stories are more educational. Sometimes they're more newsy. Sometimes they're just fun. And today we have a little bit of a mix. So if you want more information, by the way, about becoming a field messenger, because again, anyone can do it. You got a cell phone, you can do it. Head on over to unitednetwork.news. We do have a section at the top that's called Become a Field Messenger, and we've got more information there on how we can help you out. So our two stories are field messenger reports that we talk about in today's newscast. We've got one that focuses on chicken owners. So if you happen to own the live chickens, by the way, if you happen to own some live chickens, maybe you were part of that group that, when egg prices went through the roof. Were you one of those people that went out and got some chickens and, thought that was going to help? Because if you are, what may have happened is you may have realized that chickens are a lot more expensive than you thought. So today's field messenger report comes from Heather in Utah. She's got a bunch of chickens and, other animals on her property. And she has some hacks on how you can cut back on costs, specifically with chicken feed. And she tells you some of her hacks. One involves growing lentil sprouts, as well as fermented grain. And I guess the chickens just love it. I do plan to have chickens sometime in the near future. I'm a big fan of chickens, not just for egg purposes, but I don't know, connecting with them. There's something about being on a farm with chickens. It's pretty awesome. So I'm definitely going to use Heather's feeding techniques or her feed hacks. And then the next story is just, this next one is just about appreciating life and seeing some things that you don't always see every day. And this is from Anne Marie in Switzerland. And it's part of the Alpine descent. That's what we called the story. And what you see in this video are people, I'm assuming herders. I'm not sure the official term for these people, but they are in Switzerland and they are bringing goats and sheep and cows through the mountain. It's like a very windy mountain pass. It's like a road. And they're going along this road, but it's more of a celebration. It's almost like a little parade, although there's no one along the sides of the road. There's a steep drop. There's no one hanging out on the sides of the road here. But it's beautiful because you have all these animals and they're decorated. Most of them are wearing some sort of bells. And then there's it's not quite a wreath, but, beautiful leaves. I don't even know how to explain it. And ornate decorations on these animals. And they are celebrating, I believe they're celebrating what happened in the summer. So, they were at the top of the Alpine in the summer. And I'm assuming they all, got fed. All the animals are happy. Now they're coming down. And it was successful. Again, something you don't see every day, but when you do see it, it's pretty awesome. In our New Earth segment, we've got a bunch of stories. There's actually 4 that I'm going to go through. Our interview, because we usually do an interview in this, batch of content, we start a conversation about frequency. Now, I know everyone's heard of frequency if you have been following our news or even in the alternative media, they talk about frequency. But I brought on an expert. His name is Jai Hain, and he is from the School of Frequency. So he teaches people about frequency, about healing and different things. And he gives us, what I think is a pretty understandable definition of what frequency is. He says everything moves, everything is vibrating or oscillating. And even you are a frequency. And how you're feeling, like if you're feeling sad or happy, that is a different frequency. One of the reasons we love music so much is because those are different frequencies, right? And if you listen to like headbanging music, you get into a certain mood. And if you listen to, 432 hertz, then you get into a certain mood. So everything, when we say everything is frequency, this is why. Literally everything is frequency. I'm really excited because we are going to have Jai on. We're doing a lot more segments, but this was kind of the opener just to give more information about frequency. The other thing is, guys, we are constantly bombarded with negative frequencies. It's not nearly as much as it was, but it still does happen. And we need to know how to counter that, because this isn't some savior program where someone's going to come in and just save you. You have to save yourself. And so you have to understand things like frequency so you know how to counter that. So that's our interview. We have a story about water purification, and there is an entrepreneur in India. His name is Manoj. I think that's how you say it. Bhargava. And he has created this machine. They call it the Rainmaker for brackish water. And what it does, it's a huge machine. What it does is it transforms slightly salty, mineralish, if that's a word, water that comes from the earth. So this is not out in sea. It comes from the earth. But you can't just drink it like that. So it converts it into drinking water. And this is being used in Indian villages. And you don't hear about this kind of stuff, right? But it really is happening. And it's improving health. It's reducing diseases among the people. And what I thought was interesting, we played a soundbite from this entrepreneur. And he talked about water being political, which is so true. But the way it struck me, I was like, why on earth is water political? Because it's about control, right? Ultimately. But this is a basic necessity. Not only, our bodies, what is the stat? It's like 80% probably even more than that, of your body is water. We need water to survive. And so it is used as a tool to control humanity. But it's so ridiculous to think that water is political, but it's become that. And as part of the restoration plan, this is one of the first things that we have to do. We have field messengers sending us reports about people traveling long distances, with buckets and things like that to get water that is contaminated, but that's all they have. So I'm so glad that machines like this are out there. They've already been invented. We really just need to kind of turn up the switch on that, right? Get them into mass production, spread them out around the world. There's more machines than just this, but the technology is there, and that's what I find to be exciting. Another story that we talked about, the largest dam removal project is happening right now on the Klamath River in California. There are 4 hydroelectric dams that are being taken out right now. And the whole idea is to revive the river's natural state, and they're trying to help the salmon population. Because apparently these salmon have not been able to migrate upstream for the last 100 years, which is crazy, right? And what they're finding is, and what they believe this will do, is it's all about restoring our planet to its natural habitat. And in doing so, it will safeguard against fish diseases. It will improve water quality. It will enhance ecological health. Probably a lot more than just that, right? But at one point, some not so smart human said, I'm going to change the topography of what God did, of what source or creator did. And, I know this water, it's supposed to run down here and supposed to go here. And yeah, I know animals depend on it, but you know what? I'm just going to put this dam here for whatever reason, even to generate power, whatever it is. But I think what we're learning now as humanity is, nature usually wins on this one, right? We had a story, what was it? I think it was just on Wednesday, where there was an invention or a modification to a train. Remember this story? Based on a bird and the beak of a bird, because it was able to do things that the train kind of wanted to do. And they're like, hey, it works for this bird. Let's just modify the nose of the train and it'll act. And it worked. So guess what, guys? Nature isn't usually wrong on this stuff. And we're finding this out over and over again. We don't need these dams. Okay, the way it originally was set up is probably the best way to do it. And then our final story is a beautiful story about a Kenyan woman. Her name is Zombie Mati, and she is turning plastic waste into building blocks. So like kind of the equivalent of concrete, but it's not concrete, right? So building blocks, which is used to do things like they call them paving bricks. So you can build roads with them, homes, you can design gardens and, different things like that. And it's friendly to the economy. It's all natural, right? And so her company, she actually has her own company, and they collect the waste, they clean it, they mix it with sand, glass, and then sometimes they add different colors because, what design is important, right? And then they're able to produce this, and it's helping the environment. It's helping them, like I said, it's ecological, and it's great for the economy. It's cheaper, it's recycling, all this good stuff. So yay to Zombie. How amazing is that? In our regional news, there's a few stories I want to touch on. The first is about these landfills in the UK because they are being filled with what they're calling small electronic items. And according to this article, the UK is discarding 500 million small electronic items. And they do this like in the last year, 500 million within the last year. And they blame this on, and they don't say it in so many words, but kind of not so good products, right? Products go out there on the market, probably from Amazon or something like that. And they're cheap, so people buy them, but they don't last long, right? And so people end up buying and buying and buying. And that's what they're saying. They're saying for every 9 items a person purchases, 8 of those are discarded per year. And they actually have a term for this. They call it fast tech. I think that is putting a big bow on a bunch of you-know-what, because fast tech makes it sound good. No, this is not a good thing. This is crap tech, right? And we need to do better. We need to do better. This is causing environmental issues, and it's a financial issue too. They estimate that 2.8 billion pounds or $3.4 billion is spent on these items each year. And we're using it for less than a year. We're discarding it. It's causing all sorts of problems. Most people aren't recycling these. And there is copper and lithium in a lot of these devices. They were saying that a lot of them were like disposable vaping products, USB drives, small little gadgety things, right? And I don't mean to pick on the UK on this because I'm sure that the US is doing the same thing. It's just a study hasn't come out. It hasn't come out in the news yet. But when I say UK, I really mean the world. All right, next story is Pakistan. Their main airline, it's their national airline, is about to collapse because they don't have any money. And obviously, the people that work for the airlines are very concerned about this. They have a fear of losing their pensions and what they call unpaid dues. All of that could happen if people start, getting laid off. And the employees, they're blaming high executive salaries, unethical business practices, financial mismanagement. All of that is probably true, okay? Because you're dealing with something that, I don't know, probably is very well funded and probably not well. There's probably not a lot of checks and balances, I'm guessing, at the top of this airline. So I'm sure a lot of that mismanagement is going on. But we've talked about this before, especially with this. This is Pakistan's national airline. So the government is involved. And what have we been saying about the governments? They have no money. So if the government has no money, they cannot give money to the airlines. They cannot give money to large corporations. They cannot give money to the media. Yes, that happens everywhere, including the United States. So you're going to start to see as governments, world governments collapse, and this is happening. I promise you this is happening. You are going to start to see these subsidiaries, if you will, because they pretty much are, start to go down with them. It's just a matter of time. And we're already starting to see this with Pakistan's national airline. And our last story has to do with the IRS. Everybody loves the IRS. Don't you love the IRS? Internal Revenue Service here in the United States. Every country is a little bit different, but we have the IRS. And we have a story about Americans not paying taxes. Well, gee, I wonder why. You put us through a fake pandemic. You forced a lot of our businesses to go under. You forced us to pay more at the grocery store and at the gas pump and for utilities and all these different places. Yet, you mean people don't want to hand you the very little money that they have left? Geez, that's really strange. Obviously, I'm being facetious here and I'm over-exaggerating, but what did they expect? According to the IRS, Americans failed to pay $688 billion in taxes on their 2021 tax returns. They say a lot of this is from underreported income, which might be true because you're like, I don't have any money to give you, so how can I cut back on, telling you how much money I actually made, or just not filing your tax returns? I'm sure there's plenty of people doing that too. Because if you don't have a lot, you really don't feel like you have to give the government a lot. The government, at least here in the U.S., we can't even elect or nominate a Speaker of the House. We can't get anything straight. And our government's a mess, but all world governments are a mess right now. So why would we just give you our money? Yeah, that doesn't sound very smart. Now, disclaimer, I am not advocating that you do not file your tax returns because they are planning to go after these people in different ways. Not just going after the people, by the way. They are going after corporations. So the second part of this story is about how they're trying to make an example out of Microsoft. The IRS says Microsoft owes $28.9 billion with a B dollars in back taxes. And they say this money essentially accumulated between 2004 and 2013. And they say that tech companies, not sure why they're just calling out tech, because I'm sure this is with all corporations, but they say tech companies use international tax planning to decrease their tax payments. So when I hear this, this reminds me of the whole Trump and Trump's tax returns. I am not a fan of Trump. I used to be until I found out a lot of nasty stuff about him. But this whole thing with his tax returns was just a crock. Honestly, it was just a mess. Because the same people trying to call him out on his taxes were the same people that were using tax laws like the one that apparently Microsoft used here to avoid paying a bunch of taxes. These are the tax laws. Just because you have somebody that knows tax law and can get you huge discounts, does that play well with the American public? No, because, you get to save billions or whatever, millions and millions of dollars, and we're having trouble, putting food on the table. So that's why it was a news story. But the same people going after Trump for that were doing the same thing on their own. And this is another example of that. So I'm sure tech companies, I'm sure they are using, international tax planning to decrease their tax payments. I'm sure they are. And I'm sure a lot of other corporations are as well, including Trump and, insert corporation name here. But you're all doing it. So, everyone's like on their soapbox, but, and as far as the IRS needing this money, again, government organization has no money. No wonder they're going after the people. They are going after corporations. And to be honest, this kind of legal battle could take several years because it is turning into a legal battle. Microsoft is saying, we're not buying into this. So it's going to take a lot of time because, our judicial system is on top of it, right? These court cases take forever. But they're saying this could impact other tech companies. So you are seeing a dying animal in its last days. The IRS has no money. And I'm not surprised that they're going after everything. It's not right, but they're still doing it. And now it's time for the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. So Kimberly is helping humanity one of many people, but she is helping humanity transition to the light. Okay. As I mentioned at the start of this podcast, our planet was in a very dark place for a very long time. And if you look at all the religious texts out there, right, especially the big ones here on our planet, there comes a time when it switches from dark to light. We are at that time, and Kimberly is helping. She's not like some superhero or anything. She's a human being, but she is helping to bring in the light. And she has access to what we call the Alpha system, which is connected to the global repository, which is how all new money comes into the world financial system. So it's a very important role that she has. And right now, all eyes are on her, whether people want to think that she's in charge of the money or not. She's the trustee of the money. It's not her money. It's humanity's money. But we are moving forward with the restoration of planet Earth. And anybody that comes in our way is a problem. And so right now you have these crazy people. We talk about this all the time on the news, on this podcast. You have these people who think they're at the top, and on some crazy level, they kind of are, but they don't realize that the pyramid it was a really tall pyramid. And they never knew who was at the very, very top, because the people at the very, very top were not even human. But now we've gotten down to a level where we're at the government level. And you have some families involved. Anyway, right now there's a group, what we call the Langley Five, which are 5-star generals that are trying to run the show. Honestly, this is like Game of Thrones. Everybody wants to rule the whole planet, okay? And everybody knows how they're going to get money without working with Kim, without working with humanity to restore the planet, because they are on this plan of thousands of year plan to basically bring all these demons and lower astral beings to Earth. And, we're slaves forever if we even make it that far. And that's not on this timeline. Sorry, guys, you're on the wrong timeline. Maybe see if you can hitch a ride, grab a frequency, maybe to the other ones. That's not happening anymore. We are not going through that. We are transitioning to the light. The light has actually already won. I know it's hard to see that right now, but what you are seeing are the final death blows of the deep state. And when I say deep state, I'm not just talking about the US and Republicans and Democrats, blah, 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 blah. No, this is a worldwide thing. Okay, so we need to talk about their current plan. So all eyes are on Israel and Palestine right now, right? And Hamas. You ever notice how the headlines never talk about Israel and Palestine? It talks about Israel and Hamas because there's a narrative there. Let's go after the bad guys. Let's go after the terrorist groups. They don't tell you they started the terrorist groups, but I digress. That's what the headlines are saying now. So our headline here is what's their next move? What are they doing here? So Kim was able to catch part of a conversation where they revealed their plans next, okay? And it involves bringing what they call immortals, aka demons, lower astral beings, and they are going to come in to our planet. They're going to flood through the gates of hell and save the day. Because yes, these people want to work with these horrible beings that don't even exist anymore. That they don't realize that, I guess. They are referring to some ancient texts, thinking that everything is going to go down on a certain path, but we're not on that timeline, so it's not going to work. And they think they have created the perfect end time scenario. Now, I have to be honest with you guys. I said this to my producer, Mike, earlier this week before we did the news. I said, I grew up, I have a Christian background, okay? And I have been studying the end times, quote unquote, for at least 20 or 25 years. And I have been waiting, because a good Christian does, for this time where Israel is attacked, quote unquote, and this ushers in a series of events that ultimately leads to Christ coming back. And so I found myself over the weekend really taking this personally, because what I know on the other end are these people, and they are purposely trying to create wars and do stuff like this, but it's not happening naturally. Everything is a stage. Everything is a production. Are real people dying? Absolutely. And that, it makes me so mad because they are relying on people's religions, because all religions talk about this in some capacity, all the major ones. They are pulling at the heartstrings of the people that think that they're following God and want to do, what they think, what the, plan is for the end of days, because that's what the Bible says. And so I kind of take this personally because they are manipulating people. And I was one of those people. And I just, I get so frustrated. But this is that point where they are trying to call on these beings, and they think that they deserve this because they have created the perfect end time scenario. So, hey, we brought in the pandemic, even though it was fake. We brought in the pandemic. We're starting we did the Ukraine-Russia thing, which nobody is even talking about anymore. Did you see how quickly that dropped off the news? We're doing the whole thing in Israel. So, we kind of set up this whole thing, demons. Why don't you come in now? Usher in the Antichrist, do all this kind of stuff. But it's all manipulated. And that leads us into our first soundbite for the World Situation Report.
I hope you're sitting down, Sonny, and I hope all of you watching this are sitting down, because I couldn't make this stuff up. I really couldn't. Yeah. So they are under the impression that today, no later than tomorrow afternoon, that we are going to have the War of the Worlds. Okay. Oh, yeah. And I'm going to tell you why, too. They think that they have created the perfect end time scenario. We talked about that the last time in the news. And with the war in Israel and, and all of the pandemic, the things that they've done. So they are under the impression that very shortly there will be a flood of what they're calling the Immortals, meaning AKA people from the lower astral, that are going to come flooding in through the gates of hell in Israel and Gaza. They actually said this, so I'm just repeating. Okay, don't call me the crazy one, because I even sat there listening to this this morning, and I'm like, are they talking about this? This is really happening. They're really having this discussion as to what time they're coming.
Well, they've narrowed it down to a specific time, or is it?
No, they just estimate that it will be within the next 48 hours max is what they think. And these people are whatever, non-people, are supposed to come in and help them fight us. And honestly, I'm kind of proud of that. You know why? Because you don't think you can beat us on your own. You need to call in a gaggle of immortals.
Yeah.
Well, no immortals are coming. I can tell you that for sure. There is nothing connected to the gate in Israel. There's no wormholes. There's no openings. There's no beings on the other side. Nothing is going to happen. So they created this whole mess for nothing. Yes.
So do you think it's just wishful thinking? Do they just not know what else to do? I mean, it's not based in anything that is legit or has legs here.
Well, they have, like I said, these old texts that they read, and they are under the impression that they have sufficiently ended, or they have sufficiently entered into the end times. Therefore, this is the next logical step in their mind. And that's your leadership, people, governments, if you're watching this, and listening, that's your leadership. There you go. Now you know why you're killing all those people in Gaza and Israel, specifically for this.
It's so horrible because there are real people dying and real people being very fearful and scared and being run out of their homes and horrific things happening. I'm sure there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation and the articles out there. You really have to watch what you're consuming right now. But they don't care about people's lives at all. This is about them taking back power, regaining control of the financial system, which gives them domination over the planet. And apparently they think that these immortals are going to come through and save the day. That is what we are apparently waiting on for the next 24 to 48 hours. But as Kim said, it's not happening. And as I mentioned earlier, this may have very well happened on a different timeline. We know that other timelines existed where evil won on this planet. We know that that was the case. So you kind of understand where they're coming from. This is how it was always done. The bad guys always came in and saved the day. What is happening now is unprecedented. So on one hand, it's like you kind of understand what they're doing. But on the other hand, it's like these people aren't even human. They have no regard for humanity, for life at all. So I did ask the question as part of the situation report, can't we just remove them? Because this flies in the face of natural law. In natural law, you cannot take somebody else's life unless it is in defense of your own life or the life of an innocent. Obviously, this does not fit the bill. But the problem is when we try to take them out, someone else just replaces them. Now, the situation might have just flipped. And that kind of leads us into our next soundbite. Kim is giving us an update on what is going on in the Israeli-Palestinian war. And what's happening is they are trying to get a bunch of weapons. They want to cause as much destruction as possible because that's what their little demon friends feed off of, the demon friends that don't even exist anymore. This is what the demons feed off of, fear and death and all this stuff. So this is why you're seeing so much bloodshed and horrible headlines and things like that, because they're literally trying to bring in these immortals to save the day. And part of all that destruction is purchasing weapons. And we have said before, governments don't have weapons. They don't have money. So where are they getting this weapons from? Now, this is important because the deep state lies about everything. Everything. And Kim explains what happened in order for people to think that money was coming. Because we've been saying for a long time, listen, if you are not on the restoration plan, you are not getting any money. Period. You can't start your war, World War III, whatever it is you're trying to bring in. You can't start another pandemic because that does not help humanity. So then the question becomes, well, how did they purchase these weapons? Where did that money come from? Take a listen.
Now let's talk a little bit more about the war in Israel. This has been extremely difficult because they are constantly bringing in new weapons. But Wednesday afternoon, there was a major eruption and disruption. So it turns out the Israelis have been buying weapons on the come. What that means is they're getting weapons from places like Poland and Chile and in some cases the U.S., not too much. They're moving weapons from out of Cyprus and Greece and some places in Jordan. And, they transfer the weapons and they'll be paid for by insert person's name here. So one of those names was the Pentagon. So the Israelis called them because they were told by Langley 5 that they would be able to get $200 million for arms from the Pentagon. So they called the Pentagon on Wednesday afternoon and they said, okay, can you send us the $200 million now? We got the weapons from Poland or wherever. And they said, what? We're broke too. What do you mean? Who the heck told you that we were going to pay for your weapons? What are you talking about? And everybody started yelling and screaming at each other. Then they called Langley 5 and started yelling and screaming at Langley 5. Langley 5 called Rothschild and started yelling and screaming. And then the operatives that participated in this, not just Americans worldwide, started yelling and screaming at Langley 5. And before you knew it, it erupted into a giant, everybody screaming at everybody fest.
Okay.
But we also had some other people yelling and screaming. So turns out a lot of these lies were coming, and I'm going to say through, because it wasn't them that invented them, the Knights of Malta. Now, in business, in the world of the underworld, let's just say the way business really works, the Knights of Malta often participate in both on-market business, off-market business, and with large corporations and companies, not only for operatives, agencies, and governments, but they also participate with the Silent Circle, who run a significant amount of corporations. Mm-hmm. So there's a particular family in the Silent Circle, and I'll leave it at this, who does a lot of business in Israel. They also have a lot of business in the Gaza Strip. They have relations, let's just say, with those in power in Gaza, Hamas being one of them, and also a lot of government officials, military, and so on and so forth in Israel as well. So the Knights of Malta were told by Langley Five and the Rothschild family to tell Israel and the Hamas and those in the Gaza Strip that this family ordered the war. Oh, yes, this happened. Now, this is where the juicy part comes in. So somebody, I don't know who it was, might have notified them that this was going on and kind of just kindly asked them, are you involved here?
The family you're talking about.
And they said no. And I said, well, you've got a group of people over there using your name. They threatened everybody not to call them directly.
Of course.
They're very busy. Now, I know, of course not, right?
Right.
Can't have that lie getting out there. So the family started looking for the who, what, when, where, why. Now, the reason why everybody also purchased weapons and were getting armed and all of this from, various countries around the world is because this family has money. They have big companies. They know that they could afford to pay for a decent sized war there. So with them behind it, of course the money would come out. Now, I have had this particular situation happen to me several times. Many, many times throughout the years. I have been at fault for the Taliban not getting paid. I have been at fault for Bulgarian biker gangs not getting paid. I have been at fault recently for stopping operatives from getting paid, according to Langley Five, when I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And that is not the case. I've been trying. I'm the trying one over here. So they did figure out who did it. They did get a lot of clarification. They sent people over there, made some calls to others, and basically said, look, we were not involved in this in any way. They used our name. They name dropped. And this is who actually ordered it. Now, in my personal opinion, this actually began in retaliation for them asking within the last few days to borrow money from the Silent Circle, and the Silent Circle said no. Right. So they thought they were going to get the money out of them one way or another, and they would be forced to do it.
Man, they play dirty.
Well, you can't trust them at all. I mean, they're in any way. So there was a call, let's just say, request is probably a pleasant word for what happened with the head of the Silent Circle, Langley Five, and Rothschild yesterday, mid-morning Eastern Standard Time, to where the Silent Circle promptly told them, and this is where the good part is, they promptly told them that they will never win this war. You will never beat her. They said that if you continue on this path, we will be forced to take extreme measures.
Wow.
Any kind of alliance or truce agreements or anything we've had in the past between our families and all of you will be immediately severed. And there will be consequences. And They actually announced to both groups that they are with me.
I can tell you're kind of smiling when you said that.
I am smiling. I'm smiling. I was like, oh my God, they finally told them. Yay.
Wow.
But that's really exciting.
So for those of you who don't know, the Silent Circle, that's not their real name. That is a name that Kim gives them to protect their identity. But what we do know about them is they run a lot of corporations. They have a lot of money. And the deep state has been approaching them, trying to get them on board with their annihilation plan. And this is really good news. They finally came out and said, no, we are going to be working with Kim. You can't possibly beat her. And by the way, it's not that it's just Kim. Kim is on the side of humanity. So when you hear things like, oh, I'm siding with Kim, they're really saying, no, we are moving forward with the restoration plan. You can't possibly win, dark side. We are siding with the light. So that's another way to interpret that. And that's really good news because, again, they have control of these larger companies. What we were trying to avoid have happen is that everything, like we have to start completely from scratch in the restoration process. Would we do it? Absolutely. We didn't come this far to give up. But wouldn't it be nice if people that know how to run companies, and it's easier to change stuff than to start from scratch. So it's really big that the Silent Circle has now come out and said to the deep state, we're not working with you anymore. And if you keep doing this crazy stuff and trying to bring in these demons and whatever, then we're going to come against you, and we're going to come against you hard. So that's good news, guys. I mean, what happens from here, I'm not really sure. Before I played the soundbite, what I was saying is, why are we letting these 5-star generals run the show? And it's because they just are replaced. We take them out and someone replaces them. Will all this new information with the Silent Circle, will that now make a difference? Because the Silent Circle is on the inside. They know a lot more about the inner workings of what's going on. And so can they help us with this? If they are done with the deep state, when they reach that threshold, whenever that happens, hopefully very soon, can they help us with this situation so that we're not just, going through the same motions again and again? We're tired of that. Their plan is not going to work. It's a different timeline. We are on a light timeline forever now. The dark cannot win. So again, I know for a lot of people listening to this, it's kind of a combination of sitting and listening to a sermon on a Sunday mixed with politics, mixed with like a military report. That's pretty much what's happening on our planet right now. I know it's a lot. Someone may have told you about this podcast, sent you the link, and you're like, what in the world did I get myself into? Do your research. Please go down what we call rabbit holes. Start exploring different topics. Don't just accept the main narrative, because we have been lied to about pretty much everything. But you need to keep asking questions. You have to keep thinking critically. And if you like what you heard today, please share this podcast, or perhaps even just this episode, whatever you want, with people you care about. Because most of us are walking around going, something is off here. But a lot of people can't put their finger on the pulse of what's really happening on this planet. That's why we exist. That's why this newscast exists. That's what we're about. If you want to subscribe and get all of our amazing content, you can at unitednetwork.tv. That gives you access to all of our newscasts, the complete world situation reports, not just the sound bites, original series, health and wellness videos. Again, unitednetwork.tv. You can also connect with us on Telegram. I will include the direct links in the episode description, but there's 3 ways you can connect with us on Telegram. We have the CARE General Updates channel. So I mentioned it at the top of the show, but CARE stands for the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. And CARE, like UNN, is part of CARE. And all the restoration projects and everything that's about to happen here comes from CARE. So if you want to know more about restoration, check that out. United Network News channel is where we promote all of our in-depth field messenger stories. Those are available for free if you access the link through the United Network News channel. We also have the direct link to the newscast, but if you click on that link, you'll have to be a member. You'll have to subscribe. And then we also have the UNN Field Messenger group. This is more of a conversation type group, so everyone can post and ask questions, but this is specifically for people who are working on their own Field Messenger reports from their community. So if you're thinking about doing that, we do have a whole support system that can help you. Reach out, join the Telegram group, and become part of history. All right, guys, this is The Rundown. I'm Sunny Galt for United Network News, signing off.